Welcome back, and thank you for joining for another whiskey review. Today, we're going to take a look at a very special bottle, the Clynelish, second edition, 2015 Diageo special release. So, this one here, not too many of you may be familiar with, as only 2,946 bottles were released. This is, again, a Diageo special from 2015 from the Clynelish distillery. 56.1% ABV, natural cask strength, and a lovely package. Let me show it to you. So this one here is a NAS whiskey. I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the whiskeys that are in it, but a very, very pricey NAS whiskey and a very, very fancy package in this special release. And actually, it comes with a similar package that some of the other Diageo special releases come in. For instance, the Linkwood 37, the 2016 Lagavulin 25, a couple of other ones that I've happened to notice. So it also comes with this nice little booklet. Kind of tells you a little bit about the limited release from Clynelish, which I know of two. In 2014, they did their additional special reserve release, and this one is called the, it doesn't say special reserve, but it is in the special reserve line, the limited release second edition. And because it is the limited release second edition, I was happy to buy two of these Clynelishes. And here you take a look at one that is unopened. It comes in this nice wrapping paper that actually holds this bottle in place pretty tightly. The reason why I bring that up is this. If you happen to get this bottle and you take the wrapping paper off because you want to enjoy it, like anybody would, know that when you put it back in this nice box here, it will not hold the whiskey very well at all. But I will show you a little trick that I have developed with my time with this whiskey. So it has this little pull string that usually goes behind the top of the cork, so when you pull it, it comes out. Unfortunately, this bottle wants to kind of jump or fall right out of the front. So what I have been doing is kind of sticking it inside here so it grabs. And that way, if I get it out or someone gets it out that I wasn't expecting to be in my liquor cabinet, better be family, or Keith, or Dustin, or one of my other buddies, it will kind of catch itself from falling out. So if you guys happen to have this bottle, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you're happy enough to get your hands on one of these bottles in the future, do not be surprised if it comes flying out once you've unwrapped it with the paper. Okay, so a lot to get to with this particular video. Again, this Clynelish here, special edition for 2015. This book tells you a lot of good information about the history of the distillery, how they came up with these limited releases, and tells you a little bit about this particular release, which again is a NAS or non-age statement whiskey. Comes in this beautiful bottle with some nice etching on the bottom of it as well. But it does talk a little bit about the cask maturations that they used. So I usually don't like to read from a book or at the bottom of the box from you guys. I really want to get to the smell and the taste and tell you guys what I think. But in this case, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the maturation, just because it is basically 4 different ages and 4 different casks that went into this to make this 2,946 bottles. And only 2,944 they're out there for the rest of you, because I have to. So about this particular whiskey, it says to explore every facet, Dr. Jim, what does it say his last name is? I'll tell you his last name because I thought it was great. I don't know exactly how the malt master at Clynelish speaks his last name, but it almost looks like it's Beverage, but I like to say it's Beverage. If his last name is really pronounced Beverage, wow. It's like he was born to do something like this. But it's probably Beverage. It's spelled B-E-V-E-R-I-D-G-E, so it could go either way. But Dr. Jim here was able to have the full run of the Clynelish distillery to pick out whatever casks he wanted to make these special limited releases. Wasn't able to get my hands on the first one, but was fortunate enough to get my hands on this second one. And as far as the cask maturation in years, let me tell you what I know. As far as the casks go, 4 different styles of casks were used. So there are first fill ex-bourbon, American oak, to refill ex-bodega European oak butts, rejuvenated or refilled American hogsheads, and that pretty much makes up the different casks that are used in this particular non-age statement whiskey. I have been able to read that the youngest whiskeys in here are 15 years old. So I would imagine the first fill bourbon barrels is probably the 15-year-old whiskey. That's just my guess, of course. And then I've also heard they have some really older whiskeys, 30, maybe up to 40-year-old whiskey to kind of round out and pump up some of the flavors. But again, very lovely presentation on this whiskey. Both a really nice classy label and some really nice writing here underneath the label that's actually kind of etched on the bottle itself. Now this bottle here was extremely expensive every place I looked. I've been seeing it sit on the shelves here in Ohio for almost 4 years. Ohio last year and this year kind of purged some whiskeys, and normally I see this for at the low end $600-700. Here in Ohio I think it was $750, which is ridiculous. But they went on sale and I was able to get both of these for less than what the original asking price was. I was like around $250 a bottle or something like that. So I did happen to pick up two. There's only two left I could still find. A buddy of mine, Dustin, had a bottle and he let me try it because I knew nothing about these special releases. I was super impressed with it. So when I was able to find the last two bottles in Cincinnati, Ohio, I snatched them up. A lot to pay for a NAS whiskey. However, being what its original asking price was, I went ahead and took the chance. And so far, I have been impressed. If you don't know much about Clynelish, it's kind of right by Aurora, coastal highlands, known for kind of like a waxy, fruity dram, at least the 14-year-old, which is the only Clynelish I've ever had, other than a couple of independent signatory bottles that has been shared with me. But as far as a bottle of whiskey that I've had myself, other than the 14, this is the only Clynelish I've ever had in my life. And as you can tell, I've been getting to know this bottle for a while, shared it with a few friends, left it to oxidize like I normally do for 4 or 5 months until I bring it to you guys, so that way I can really see how the whiskey changes and give you guys an accurate representation of really what it offers you. So with this particular one, besides my normal wanting to wait 3 or 4 months with a bottle open and try it a few times and let it oxidate, I had the additional reason to wait because this is a very tricky one to unravel. I have been going back and forth with this just because it is so complex. There's so much going on in this, and I wanted to make sure that I wrote down as many of my notes as possible in as many sittings as possible, go back to it to make sure that I was giving you guys an accurate representation of really what this whiskey was. So I've been sitting here rambling on about what this is and how it was made and where it was made and who made it and what kind of cask went into it. Forget that, we are getting into this bottle. Oh, as soon as I tell you one more thing. This particular bottle is bottle 2441 of the 2946. I'm not exactly sure what the second bottle is because the bottle number is behind the wrapping. I don't want to unwrap it because I will probably never be able to wrap it back correctly again. I learned that with the Balvenie 25 single barrel. All right, let's get into it. Fruits. Right away, you get apples. Apples, grapefruit, lemon, and wax. Those are the things that really jump out at you right away. It's like a sharp apple too. It's creamy. Plenty of vanilla there, toffee. But the lemon is the one thing that really kind of grabs my attention. It's not the most dominant flavor, but it's a strong flavor in this one, and it is just so candied and so delicious. Lemon, candy, grapefruit with a little bit of sugar on top of it. Like if you ever, at least here in the States, it was a big thing like in the late 80s, early 90s, health nuts. Thought if you cut a grapefruit in half and sprinkled the whole thing with sugar, that was enough of a sugar kick to get your day going. And for some reason, people thought it was healthy. And my older sisters would eat that. And I'm getting that particular grapefruit with sugar on it in this smell. There's so much going on in this particular one. Now, this is a very expensive whiskey, period, let alone for a NAS whiskey. So if you don't want to spend that type of money on it, I completely get it. But I am telling you, anything that is natural cask strength, 56.1, the youngest whiskeys are 15, oldest whiskeys are probably pushing 30 plus. This is a real treat on the nose. With NAS whiskeys, Some are hits, some are misses. There's been plenty of I've liked. There's been some that I haven't liked. When you get into this expensive of a whiskey, it's kind of hard to justify it sometimes, but if you're able to get it for as cheap as I did, that's less than Macallan cask strength, at least where I'm from, and that was an easy decision for me to make. I believe it is colored from what I've been able to read, but it is non-chill filtered, and again, with a high ABV of 56.1, that's really adding some solid value, in my opinion. Yeah, all those fruits. A little bit of orange, chocolate, apple, candied lemon and grapefruit, vanilla, toffee, cream, and the flavors are so rich. You get those flavors in other whiskeys. Not maybe that many flavors, but this particular one, probably because of the cask strength, it is just so powerful and pungent and waxy on the nose with all of those fruits. It is really something that is unique as far as any whiskey that I've tried. Let's take a sip, tell me what I think. Orange and chocolate and wax. Orange, chocolatey, waxy orange. Mouth coating, viscous. Some spices are coming up now. Clove, a light cinnamon, a silky custard. One of my older sisters were in town. It was her birthday. Went to a nice restaurant. We weren't going to get dessert, but they said, hey, since it's your birthday, we'll bring the birthday girl dessert. And that particular dessert happened to be creme brulee. And top was all nice with some sugar and that lovely custard underneath. I'm getting a little bit of that creme brulee custard on the finish. But mainly it's orange and chocolate and a silky milk chocolate on top of that waxy orange. Then maybe, here it comes that lemon. That candied lemon's right here. It took a minute for it to come, but when it arrived waxy and with toffee. Like it brought toffee with it. Like, man, I knew you invited just me over here today to watch the game, but I brought my friend's toffee. And salt. And caramel. Man, it's just, there's so much going on in this one. Anybody who's actually had a chance to enjoy this more than once or more than just a dram in a bar or a dram or a friend gave them, I really would like to hear your thoughts in the comment section on this particular one, only because I don't have anybody to bounce this whiskey off of. It's just me trying to decipher it all by myself. And when I have a whiskey tasting with friends, it's just one of many whiskeys that we drink. So, kind of talk about it and then we move on. I will say this, with the color being so light and the fact that I heard that it is colored, which is disappointing, but I would think that the majority of the whiskeys that are the younger ones would just be the bourbon barrels, and those ex-bodega barrels, they didn't impart too much color in this one. So why part of me thinks maybe that's all fairly young whiskey, 15 to 21-year-old whiskey, when I taste it and smell it, you really don't get rounded flavors to that degree, in my opinion, until you get into the mid-20s. So I'd be really shocked if at least some of the whiskeys in this weren't up to 30 years old. But alas, we do not know. All right, so what I did was I had a little bit of water when I was tasting the whiskey. And as I've done now for about a year solid, I only use the Fiji at room temperature to add a little bit of flavor to the water, but now it's had a chance to sit there. Let's see what we're getting. I will say this, I put about 3 drops in this since it is cask strength, and since I've played around with it a little bit already, I felt that 3 to 5 drops is kind of really the sweet spot as far as opening it up. All right, a little bit, second time with a little bit of water. The sharpness immediately taken off. Before I got a sharp green apple, now I still think it's a green apple, but it's a soft green apple. Man, that creamy candied lemon is just so unique in this particular one, and so welcome as far as a different flavor. I love a lemon flavor in a whiskey. I got it a lot from the Lagavulin 12-year-old cask strength, the 2014 version, when she had a few drops and it opened up for a while. but I have never had a candied lemon smell in a whiskey like this before. And you get like the acidity from the lemon, but then it moves into grapefruit and it just keeps going, dancing back and forth. Sugary grapefruit candied lemon with that, just a nice wallop of vanilla. So thick. The waxy note is hard to describe for me, or at least hard for me to articulate to you on camera, but it's almost like an apple scented candle that had melted all the way down to the end. You get a little bit of that wick in there, unlit wick. It's just so creamy and so rich. I mean, just really a treat on the nose. You know, it's a cask strength whiskey, which takes it up a notch in my book, regardless of, you know, what you think a whiskey's worth as far as pay. But, you know, say the average whiskeys in here are 23, 24, 25 years old. You know, for what I got it for, you know, the 250 or whatever, was absolutely a steal. You know, from what I see them selling for online, $6.99, $7.99. I saw a one auction site that had it going for $900. I don't know if I'd pay that for it, but I think part of me is influenced by the fact that it is a NAS whiskey, because you think, oh, there are probably some younger whiskeys and I shouldn't pay a super premium for it. But if you're going purely off smell and taste, this one is really up there. All right, last sip time. On the palate, the chocolate and orange is so predominant, you have to talk about that first. Yes, there's toffee sweetness. Yes, there's some spice coming up right here at the end. It's a long finish, it's silky. Ooh, maybe even slight shaved almond note, which I've never really picked up before. It's the first time I'm getting it, so I'd like to revisit it again before I say that's the case for sure. But there's just a slight almond nuttiness in it as well. And so mouth coating. You know, the waxy smell is one thing, but the viscosity on the palate for all Clynelishes that I've ever tried, it is just so sooty from a density standpoint, not from a smell standpoint. It's a sooty thickness on your palate that just stays and grabs a hold. And just sit there and it just lingers for you. Just lingers. Excellent, excellent whiskey here by Clynelish. I've only had one, like I said, the 14, a couple of independent bottlings. I've had ones that had definitely had more sherry influence as far as the signatories. This one, if you were to blindfold me and ask me what the cask maturation is, I would say it's bourbon cask only. That is the flavor profile that I am personally getting and that I have gotten the entire time I've had this bottle. Now, we know from reading it from the book that there is a little bit of the sherry cask maturation, but I would imagine that's the older whiskey just kind of rounding it out to some degree. I don't get really any of the dark fruits. They're all tropical fruits. It's just, again, the apples, the toffees, the vanilla, the lemon. Oh man, it is just lovely. Is it lemon or is it lime? Or is it both? You should find out for yourself. This is a beautiful whiskey. I sent this to, I sent a sample of this to one of a guy I know from a group called Scotch Addicts. He helped me get a 48.1% Highland Park. So to say thanks for him, or say thanks to him, I sent him this as well as a sample of a Talisker 30 and I think Ardbeg 23. He was pretty impressed with the nose on all of them, but he was really impressed with this Clynelish and wanted to know more about it. So this one is a little bit of an enigma as far as the actual pieces of it. It was in small quantity back in 2015 here in Ohio. We just had a bunch of them sitting around forever. I guess the high price tag scared a few people away, but fortunately for me, I waited it out long enough to where they discounted it drastically, about 70% off what normal retail was, which often makes me wonder, what is it we'd be paying if we could just get it straight from the distillery shipped here to the United States? I'm guessing about a third to 25% of what the retail is when it hits the shelves here. Regardless, I want to give you a whiskey score on this particular one. This one, I've gone back and forth with this a few times, but the fact that it's cask strength, the fact that it is so complex on the nose and on the palate, I'm going to give it a 92 out of 100, which for me anymore, that is a seriously hardcore whiskey score. I have rated a Highland Park 25, 95 before, but I would not rate it that high today, being the fact that I've tried more whiskeys. So when I say this is a 92 out of 100, this is about top 25 to 30 whiskeys that I've ever had in my life, this Clynelish right here. Really, really amazing whiskeys. If you get your hands on it, I would highly recommend it. Now, I say whiskeys that I've tried so far because, you know, a little quick promo for the upcoming videos. I have some really nice whiskeys coming up. I have that Linkwood 37. I have a Lagavulin 1991 24 year. I've got a Lagavulin 16 cask strength Isla Fest 2017. Balvenie Ton 1401, more Balvenie Ton 1509s. So I really, in Talisker 25, I really stepped up my purchasing here in the last probably 6 weeks to kind of bring you guys some more of the higher end whiskeys that I know you guys kind of associate with my channel. So I'm going to give you guys some more of those. So hopefully you appreciate it. But again, I'm at a 92 out of 100 on this one. I'm super impressed with this Clynelish special release limited edition, second edition. By the good Dr. Jim Beveridge. I hope it's Beveridge. That's a great name. Anyway, I want to thank you for joining for another one of my whiskey reviews. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section, whether you're a fan of Clynelish or if you've had this whiskey before. Again, if you've had this bottle and tried it a few times, I'd love to hear your tasting notes. I was all over the place with my tasting notes. I wrote them down, refined them a number of times. I have been waiting to bring this whiskey to my fans here on the YouTube channel for months now, but I wanted to make sure I had it down. So hopefully I nailed it. Until next time, I wish you happy drinking. Thanks for joining.